So then let's move on to the other
Two-wheel.
two-wheel racing that we watched, which was, of course, AMA Supercross. So this week they were in Birmingham.
Yes, Birmingham, Alabama.
We still had for the 250SX, we still had the East side, the East Coast guys.
East Coast boys.
Exactly. And then 450 per usual.
Yes.
So we did not watch the heats.
No, but when we started tuning in for the last chance qualifier, we did hear about what had happened in one of the 250 heats.
Correct.
Where Deegan and Hammaker bumped together, right?
That was
from
actually,
the start, which
looked actually pretty bad. I'm happy to know that Hammaker wasn't injured.
Yes.
And then he clearly had a really, really great race. Actually, let's switch this over. He ended up having a really, really good race.
Yes.
And that makes me happy because if you go back and rewatch the fall, it looked quite bad. And then I feel like with Austin just getting injured from having a bad fall.
Yeah.
It was good to see that he was able to, get back on the bike, and the bike also didn't really take that much, seemed like, damage.
Yeah, I mean, because he had to go into the last chance qualifier, Hayden Deegan as well. They both, of course, made it, not of course, but they both ended up making it into the main event for the 250 as well, which was also really interesting. It seemed like a technically difficult track from what they were saying. There were no hoops this time, though, which was really interesting. This was our first time with a track without it. So that was, I feel like for some of the riders it was good because some people like hoops or some are good at it versus others are not as much. So it changed maybe the dynamic a little bit. But overall, I thought it was a really fun race yet again.
And also what was really surprising, what happened during the race, during the all races, there were ruts. I'm just making this joke because like every week when there's a race, the commentators, and it's like, yeah, and at the end of the, towards the end of the race, there's going to be really thick ruts, and it's going to be really, really difficult, It's like every week, and it's like, it's not surprising news, but they always make it seem like this is unexpected.
Oh, yes, that's very true.
Or at least it comes off like that.
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't know if it's maybe more common at certain tracks. I mean, we're still new to the sport, but it's definitely something we noticed, that they keep talking about the ruts like it's such a new thing, but it seems to be an every time race thing.
Yeah.
I mean, it definitely makes the race more difficult for the riders and also interesting as a viewer, because if they're stuck in certain ruts, and then also passing can be difficult, and changing your lane or best approach. But it's definitely been a funny kind of story.
I mean, and they did say that this track was apparently a little bit more difficult to overtake due to those ruts. And then you obviously had the choice to sometimes go the long way to carry more speed, or but we did still see a lot of really good overtaking.
Yes, agreed.
And then we had this week in the 250SX, very, very exciting. Tom Vialle won again. He won 2 weeks in a row now, or 2 races in a row.
And he also won his heat race this weekend. So he had like a double whammy of wins essentially this weekend, which is really nice.
Yeah.
That I feel like he's getting maybe into a groove. And I'm not sure if he was prior, but I feel like he seems to be maybe coming forward as one of the contender for the title.
I mean, if you win 2 back-to-back, that's pretty impressive.
Which I think is really cool. It was also nice to see Jalik Swoll. He was also competing very much at the front for a while, but then he was
third at some point.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
he was
third.
He fought his way up to third, and then he bumped him and Hymas. Had a little bump together.
Yeah, he got checked and then he flew. It was a little unfortunate, but I think it was like 6 minutes to go at that point. So we were like, anything could still happen, which it does. And then he ended up falling off. So he ended up coming 6th, which is still, it would have been really awesome if a Triumph bike would have made it on the podium. I know, because
there was definitely a moment at the beginning, but it was the beginning, so anything can happen.
Yeah.
That we thought, and even the commentators were like, ooh, what if Triumph actually makes it onto podium with their first season?
Yeah.
And I mean, he has been driving really well, I would say. And also one of the things which I thought was really interesting, that some of the privateer teams were doing actually better, or they were standing out a little bit more. And then our boy
Oh.
Anstey, he unfortunately couldn't finish the race.
Yeah.
He was the one with the red plate up till this weekend. And unfortunately, there was some issue with the bike. And he seems just like such a sweet guy. He was so polite about, I mean, he was trying not to say anything bad on TV, of course, but then he was still like very protective of his team. And it's just kind of crazy like that the small teams like his, and then I think Cody Schock is one of the privateer teams as well, where they only have like maybe like 5 people on the team, versus the manufacturer or constructor teams, they have like 15 to 20 people. So it does make it different at times. I don't know if that had anything to do with Anstey's result this week necessarily, but it shows how much work goes into it.
Yeah, I mean, maybe, I'm sure it probably affected it some way. Maybe if there was more personnel, someone would have had the time to see or maybe anticipate a mistake or the technical failure. But these are obviously all speculations. There's no way to know. You know?
Of course.
He was a little devastated for DNFing, because obviously that means he gets no points, and he dropped quite a lot of points in the championship. And considering how tight it is, it will be very difficult to make that up. But it is really cool still to see that, once again, a non-big team has made it so far.
And also a driver who's considered a little bit older, especially for being in the 250s.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's not over yet. It was definitely going to be difficult. But, I mean, the race isn't over until the race is over, baby.
Exactly. And then, so Cameron McAdoo ended up coming second. And then his teammate, Seth Hamaker.
Yes.
He ended up coming third. It was overall like really solid performance from everyone. I thought maybe for a second there might be another battle between McAdoo and Hamaker. Am I saying this right?
Yeah, Hamaker. I tried to pay attention yesterday because I keep saying Haymaker, but it's they said Hamaker.
And because they were like barely a second off from each other, and that like you sleep in one corner and someone's gonna catch you.
100%. And I also want to point out Pierce Brown again, because Pierce Brown has been up there. He's not necessarily, I don't remember him necessarily being on the podium for the East Coast boys, but he's always up in the middle. So he's ranked quite high. He's like a Ferrandis in the 450s.
Exactly.
He's like a
Ferrandis,
sneaky guy, because he's third at the moment.
Yeah.
And I mean, he's been up there competing. He's just not necessarily in all of the action, or there's always so much other action happening, so he's not really there. But I just find it funny that we still see his name up there. He still got interviewed, of course, deservedly so, because I mean, he's third, and not by only 5 points behind Tom Vialle, who's currently the leader.
So he's only 5 points off. And then, like they said, it has happened. I think it's very rarely that someone wins the championship without actually winning a race, but that's like Carlos Sainz Senior styles in the Dakar, right?
I mean, they did say 1997 Sydney Ferry was the last champ to win the championship without actually winning a race. So I feel like a lot of times it is consistency, and that's what they were saying as well. You have to do consistently good races, because so much can happen that you could potentially win the championship without ever winning a race.
I mean, I would hope that if Pierce Brown wins it, he at least could also win a race, because I'm sure it's like it's a nice thing to do. But hey, who knows? You know, we still have plenty of races this upcoming or this season, so I'm excited for it.
Yes.
And now moving on to the 450 SX. I am very happy actually about the results, because my boy Kenny came in third.
Yes, so excited for him.
Very excited. He was saying that he did a lot of practicing his starts in the off, and they're getting better, but it's still not ideal, because I think after the start he was still pretty far back.
Yeah, it's like, but he always fights his way up, which is
he does,
nice.
But it's like he makes his life harder, because like once some of these guys have so much, like there's such a gap, it's even harder to make it up. Or if you like, he went on the like chase and then he chased down Chase Exton too, is one of the people he passed, and then he as I said, he made it into third place. But then at some point, I'm sure like your arms are heavy, your hands are probably getting tired, and then he didn't have enough pace to catch Cooper Webb, who ended up coming second, and of course Jett Lawrence, who won again
the race. Yes, it's 2 times in a row now. The first time this season that somebody won 2 times in a row,
and he won his 4th race.
Is
right?
his fourth or is his third?
I think it's his fourth already.
His fourth? Oh, wow, that's crazy.
Yeah, because he won the first, he won Daytona, he won this one, and then he won one other one. I forgot which one he won.
Oh, yeah? Okay, well,
yeah.
I mean, that's good for him. I mean, he led the whole race. There was talks about whether or not he can finish the race.
He had again a little incident.
Did he?
I think he had like, he didn't fall off, but he had like again, like where it's like it looked really quickly.
Shaky. I mean, they were even talking about that. The commentators talked to his dad and they said that it's a lot more tricky, I guess, for him to finish or focus all the way through for like an easier race because it becomes a little bit more muscle memory. And then if it's muscle memory, you might not focus quite as much, which I totally get. So then it's even easier to make mistakes. This time it was a little bit more intricate track, so I felt like his focus was there, which was really nice. So it was nice to see. I mean, he won clearly. There was a lot of action happening behind. I mean, Cooper was there for most of the race, I feel. If I'm not mistaken, Cooper Webb. No. He was like in second.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Sorry.
There was a lot of action happening with Justin Cooper. There was a chance that he might make his first podium, which would have been really nice. I was rooting for him as well. It was either for him or Ken, or both. Really both. Because it would have been nice, but it's also nice to see that Chase Sexton is doing better this time round. I mean, there's so many big names in the top 10 4 to 450 that we've learning about, and of course we're rooting for everybody. Like Eli ended up coming in 7th. 6th was Jason Anderson, which he had also some ups and downs in the race. He ended up colliding with somebody.
Actually, yes, and then in the heat race, him and Jett bumped into each other.
Oh, that's where it was.
And then he got mad in the moment at Jett, but looking at the footage, Jett really couldn't do anything. Jett ended up actually falling because he was clipped and not because he did the clipping.
Oh, right, because it was right at the beginning. Yes,
correct. Yeah, it was like first corner, but it didn't affect them because both of them made it obviously into the main event.
Yeah.
They didn't have to go through the lucky losers / last chance qualifiers. But yeah. Sorry, I was trying to see. Yeah, so I would like to actually see Chase win a race this year, because he's made it second. He hasn't made it onto the top step, and I think it would be cool for the defending champion to at least get one in.
Oh, definitely. I mean, I also don't want Jett to like win everything. I want there to be some kind of competition because I don't want it to be like a Verstappen or like somebody winning everything. I still want it to be interesting. I mean, it was still an interesting race. There was lots of action happening in different positions of the track, which is fun. But I want there to be some action for first place as well.
Yeah. Now seeing also Jason Anderson, he has this thing what he's been doing the last couple of races I've seen where he wakes up towards the end of the race and then he goes on the
goes on a charge.
Goes on a charge. It's like for the first it seems like couple of like first 5-10 minutes, he's kind of like more cruising in the back. I don't know if he's saving up his energy because he's maybe like I can't do this the whole race.
Yeah.
Who knows? I don't know. But then he woke up and then he did make up some places. I was also happy to see Barsha in the points. Malcolm ended up coming 10th. So he still at least got some points in there too, which is cool. We haven't seen a lot from Aaron in the last couple races.
I mean, he's clearly still a crowd favorite because apparently somebody got proposed in front of him. Nice. During like one of the fan events in Birmingham, which was really nice. I mean, he's clearly a crowd favorite, but yeah, he hasn't been in the mix at the top for the last, I think, 2 or 3 races now, which I hope it's maybe just a dip in the season. I mean, there's still a lot more races to come, so I'm excited to keep watching it. But we'll see.
Oh, and then I don't think we brought up this up before, but Hunter Lawrence is currently out due to injury.
Yes.
He injured himself in practice. So very unfortunate that he couldn't participate because even though he's obviously in his brother's shadow, he has actually been consistent.
Yes.
He's always, I think, been finishing almost every time in top 10s.
Yeah, I think so.
So he's been very consistent. So it's so I am wishing him a fast recovery. And then I also see here on the list, Dean Wilson, an English racer, is also out for injury, but I don't know anything about that.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, he's a Scottish racer.
Oh yeah, sorry. I just saw United Kingdom. My apologies.
Yeah, because I know there's
no
a difference.
offense. Definitely Scottish, not English. My apologies.
But yeah, I mean, obviously we wish everybody who's out due to illness a fast recovery, because we want to see everybody on the track, because it also makes it super interesting. And I can't wait for next time.
Yes.